I know you did some undercover work, some really cool stuff, some really off the chain stuff. So, can you talk about that experience? And as you mentioned, you were the only woman embedded in that group.
Was. So with regards to the undercover, so I will say this. So when I went through undercover school, when I completed it, I was told, okay, you can do cameo roles, right? So I felt like, okay, I didn't fulfill what I really wanted to fulfill when I went through that training, and that training is pretty rigorous, right? So I said, didn't fulfill that undercover. I can do cameo undercovers. So I decided I want to do more than that. Like I want to be the main person. Right? So I did some undercover, small roles undercover in Haida, meaning like I would be that person on the street that had the flip flops on, no makeup on. I'm out there trying to hear and see what's going on. For our group at Haida, I said, but there were other things I wanted to do as well. So another example is I had an opportunity to be my own undercover, right? So I had an opportunity to work with one of the RAs in the southern part of Georgia, and I was able to go down numerous times to actually travel down to that destination, to that location, and meet up. So the whole premise of this investigation was that there was a pawn shop who was knowingly selling weapons to criminals who had these pretty violent backgrounds and criminal histories, and they were not doing any checks, and they were just like signing off and selling guns, and it was all just for the purpose of making money, right? So I got a phone call from one of the agents down south and said, would you mind coming to do this undercover? And of course, working with the assets that we have and the sources that we have, I was able to get prepared and outfitted with what I needed. And I did that. So I had an opportunity to travel south. In this case, probably took about a year, and had several meetings with and built a relationship with the guys at the pawn shop who knew I had a criminal history, right? At that time, being undercover, established a criminal history. They knew that, and they still sold me various types of weapons.
Wow.
So, and we being the case agent, actually was able to successfully prosecute that case and get that some more guns off the street, because you've got all these weapons that are coming in legally to this shop, but they're selling them illegally to these criminals, and get those off the street. So that was one example.
Is there a point where you felt, as a woman, did you feel like it was more challenging being undercover, or did it make it easier for certain roles?
I think it can be challenging depending on the role. So I'll give you another example. So I did have an opportunity. The guys were great. There was a case going on, and some of the more experienced undercover agents, the males, pulled me in. And this is the one thing I always said I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be just that girlfriend on the arm. And they gave me an opportunity early on to play that girlfriend role and do something a little bit, I would say, a little bit less threatening in terms of the safety issues, right? Because I felt like there was more parameters around it, and my safety. So they gave me an opportunity to do that with them. So that took away some of the challenges, but I do think it can be challenging depending on what the woman is doing. But again, it's how badass do you want to be? I mean, seriously, how badass do you want to be? Because it can be very dangerous. You really never know what could happen, right? For example, I was working a case there in Atlanta, and it was basically boosters. I'm serving as a booster, meaning that I'm one of those people that go into the different stores, whether it's Target or Walmart, CVS, and I steal things, right? And I take it back to the convenience store that hired me. So what we found out is with this case is that there were stores in some areas that were not so fortunate, some of the unfortunate areas. And so there were some stores being ran by some people we thought might have some tiebacks to terrorism for the funding. So they would have people in the community go and actually steal items and bring them, and then they would increase the price of the items. So now they're getting free items, and they're vastly increasing the prices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to get into the community, become one of those boosters, and we were able to, along with Target, we were able to actually successfully arrest numerous people that were doing this. So
Great.
yeah. So, and I say dangerous because you never know. At one point, I mean, the door was shut on me, and I was all wired up.
Oh gosh.
I was all wired up. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. And it's not, sorry to interrupt, it's not like the wires from today that are tiny, right? I imagine back then it was like the box with all the real wires appended to your clothes.
Exactly. And unfortunately, there was a compromising situation where the doors were locked, and of course I had to get myself out of this jam, right? Because they thought that they saw the police outside. So I had to get myself out talk my way out of that jam.
Yeah.
So it can be dangerous. You just never know.
So quick thinking.